Hello, everybody. Welcome back to Fusion's Ramblings. And we are still out here collecting ice for our ice expressways on Swan Survival. Um, in this series, we spend a few minutes rambling on about random topics. And in today's topic, we're going to talk about associations. Now, what do I mean by that? Because there's all kinds of associations. I'm not talking about the association you have with your friends or with other people or things like that. I'm going to talk about associations related to where you live. Residential associations, apartment associations, things like that. And this is I will say, an interesting topic because there are two sides of the picture. I understand them both, um, but I think there needs to be a better division between the associations. Let's talk about that for a minute. First of all, what is an association exactly? So if you live in an apartment or you live in a neighborhood that is part of a um, development project, it's going to have an association. That association is usually the administrative entity that takes care of all the things that need to be taken care of for that residential community. If it is an apartment building, it's going to be the admin. It's going to be, security. If you have security, it's going to be, reception. If you have reception, it's going to be maintenance for the elevators, for the painting of the building, for the generators, the water systems, everything else. If it is a neighborhood association, then it's usually they're the ones that are going to be handling the ability, or I should say, again, the maintenance of community features. Let's say a park that is in the community or in the neighborhood, or a children's play area, or maybe some of the sidewalk maintenance, things like that, and a few other tasks. Maybe a community center, like there's a community pool, or uh, area, a gathering area where you can hold events, things like that. And that's what an association is, if you're not familiar with that. Those of you that don't have to worry about associations, you are lucky. I will admit there are advantages to associations. Obviously, if you live in a building or a community and there are public services or public things available that for your use, you want them to be taken care of. You want them to be clean. You want the power to be on for those services. You want the elevators to work. You want the um, community pool to be maintained, right? So yes, there is a need for an association. But there's another side of the association that I completely, well, I don't know. I understand, but most of the time I completely disagree with. And that is where it gets into the ability of the association to tell you what you can and cannot do. Now, I understand some of it to a degree. For example, like in my building, they require that all your curtains that face outside are white, so that when someone looks at the building from the outside, um, it's not a plethora of colors. Instead, they see the building, they see the balconies, they see the windows, and they see, white curtains. Okay, I can understand that visually. That can make it more appealing and pleasing, for people that just look at the building, or if you're taking a picture of the building, right? I can understand that a little bit. And I understand if there's certain rules that they put in place that you can't do certain activities in certain areas, and I'll make an exception here. I agree with a couple of them, like again, in my building, you're not allowed to smoke. You're not allowed to smoke in your unit. You're not allowed to smoke anywhere on the property. And hey, I'm in complete agreement with that one, right? Now, of course, if I was a smoker, I would probably feel different. right? And then, of course, I probably wouldn't be living here either because I would have found out about the rule and chose somewhere else to live. But uh, in a lot of cases, it goes a lot further than that. In a residential area, there might be a rule about what color your house can be. And you may not like that color, but it doesn't matter because it has to be a certain color. It has to be beige, or it has to be white, or it has to be brown, or whatever, right? Usually they'll have a couple differences that you could choose from, but still. Or there might be a rule about what you can have in your yard. That your grass has to be a certain height, and that you have to maintain it, and that you can only have certain types of trees and shrubberies, and maybe you can't have a vegetable garden, or you can't have various other items. There'll be a number of different rules. And some of them, of course, make sense because it's for the safety of the community or for yourself, or it just is like a no-brainer of, well, duh. But a lot of times, associations, depending on who's managing them, can go a lot further than that, in that you'll end up with an individual that's helping to run the association or oversee the association, and they are, for lack of better words, power hungry because they will go around and make sure that everybody is adhering to every single rule, no matter how small that rule is. And it's not necessarily even, or it doesn't even have to be, let's say, an employee of the association. Sometimes you get people that just live in the neighborhood or live in the community, and they will make it their business to check everyone else and make sure that, hey, your grass is 7 inches high. It's only supposed to be 6 1/4. Something like that. I don't know, 7 inches and even 6 1/4 is pretty thick grass, but they'll do that. And then there's just other rules that you could want to repaint your house, and you have a really nice color. I mean, I'm not talking about something completely wild and obnoxious, but you can't because it's not the color that the association approves. Or you want to, have a little garden and you can't because it's not allowed. Or you live in an apartment building, you have a balcony. Like, I have a balcony in mine. But you're not allowed to do certain things on it. Um, or have certain things out on the balcony, even though really there's no harm to those items. You just can't do it. Now, some of them, of course, make a little sense, like, you can't hang your laundry on the balcony, and, because that's going to be visually disruptive, you could say. But then it would be no difference than, okay, well, what happened to hanging your laundry in the backyard, right? That used to be a normal thing. But if you live in an association, you might not be able to do that, not even in your backyard, because it's against the rules. And so the only choice you have is a dryer, an electric dryer, and dry your clothes that way. Or I guess hang them inside the living room and make sure the curtains are closed. um, So, there's positives and negatives to associations. And for those of you that are homeowners, you're very familiar with this, or you're apartment owners, or you live in an apartment or a community, you're probably aware of these. Some of you might not be because maybe you've never lived in a community, and it'll be your first time at some point, maybe, and you go and then you find out the hard way because someone files a complaint, or the association itself files a complaint against you. And then when a complaint is filed, it's not just that, hey, fix this, change this, would you please, type of thing. Oh no, there's financial repercussions. They'll fine you, an exorbitant amounts of money too, for a violation. And then if you don't comply, they'll take you to court. um, and, of course, that costs money too, and usually that will be conveyed over to you to pay. Um, so, yeah. it can be a wild ride, right? And I haven't had really any bad experiences with the associations that I've lived in, but I do find it annoying when they try to tell you you can't do something, right? Um, and it's not that you're doing something that's illegal or something that's, you know, bad that you shouldn't be doing because it's going to harm other people or harm the property or, you know, things like that. It's just that it's against the rules, that's all, right? And so it can be a little bit of an annoyance. So whether you live in an association or not, you know, it's something that is different. Well, I don't know. I don't want to say it's different because even if you don't live in an association, but you're renting, you're going to have rules from your landlord and stuff, and that makes sense. They own the house, right? Um, and so it's their property, and so you need to respect that. And from a sense, in a neighborhood community, I think you need to respect the rules and abide by whatever they set for any of the community areas, because that's what it's for, and they maintain it, and that makes sense. But then when it comes to your own house, you know, you paid $250,000, $500,000, $1 million, you know, for your house, right? It is owned by you, no one else. No one else's name is on that ownership. Yet they have the ability to tell you what you can and cannot do with that property. And that's where, you know, there's a tough line that gets drawn of should they really be able to do that in certain situations, in areas that, you know, affect the safety of others and of the community. I agree. Okay. I have no problems if they institute a rule that keeps other people safe. Like you can't have a fire outside unless it is in a certain type of um, recognized, you know, grill, you know, because safety reasons, you don't want to burn down the neighborhood. Okay, you know, that makes sense, and it's kind of like a no-brainer, right? You know, you shouldn't just be setting a bonfire in your backyard. But when they come and they say, well, your house can't be that color, not because the color is obnoxious or super wild, but just because they don't like it, you know, or because, well, I won't say they won't. Someone made the decision that they don't like those colors, right? That's why they chose them. At some point, someone made that decision of, well, I like these colors, so we should have every house in the neighborhood painted these colors. All right, from a neighborhood perspective, okay. But then you also live in a bland neighborhood. I mean, look at how many neighborhoods exist around the world where you go in and everything's the same. Every single house is almost identical. Um, you know, every street you look down looks identical. That, I think, you lose some of the personality of all the individual owners. You know, what they should be capable of expressing in their own homes to a degree. And so I, you know, have varied opinions on that, and I'm sure other people do. Some people probably agree with me, some people disagree with me. Um, but it's something that, you know, I just wanted to share. Hey, we're rambling, you know, and it was something on my mind today because I had to pay the association dues, which I don't have a problem paying, but you know, it just brought to mind. Hey, why don't I talk about this? Anyways, we are out of time to talk about associations today. But I want to thank you for joining me on Fusion's Ramblings, and hopefully you'll join me next time in our next video.